preprocessor. So before starting with the today's session, if my voice is clear and able to see the screen properly, please type 1 in the chat box. If my voice is clear as well as able to see the screen properly, please type 1 in the chat box. Okay, thank you very much. If you're able to recollect, what is the discussion happened in the last session? In the last session, we are trying to understand what is capital FILE, right? We concluded that capital FILE is one another name to one structure called _IO _ file structure. Before this discussion, we assumed that file pointer means it will point to a file. It will point to a hard disk. But yesterday with our discussion, we concluded that file pointer will not point to a file. File pointer will not point to a file stream. It is a structure pointer. It will point to one structure. The size of this structure in our 64-bit environment around, what is the size of this structure in this 64-bit environment? Around 216 bytes. Yes, 216 bytes. In this structure, one of the member, I used the term called CPI, current position indicator. Whenever you fetch a character from the file, the CPI is incremented. Current position indicator is incremented. The CPI is incremented. The current position indicator is incremented. The current position indicator is incremented. So if you want to know where is the current position indicator is positioning, you need to use, if you want to know where the current position indicator is positioning, you need to use ftel function. If you want to move the current position indicator as you wish, you need to use fseek function, like that type of discussion. So today we need to discuss about the concept called preprocessor. Okay, today we need to talk about a preprocessor. I hope all of you might have remembered the first stage of compilation. In a compilation stages, the first stage is a preprocessor. Will you agree? In a compilation stages, the first stage is a preprocessor. After the preprocessor, translator. After the translator, assembler. After the assembler, linker. After all these things, you will get an executable file. Like after the preprocessor, translator. After the translator, assembler. After the assembler, linker. I hope you might have remembered preprocessor has its own work. You might have remembered preprocessor is responsible for header file inclusion. Preprocessor is responsible for comment removal. Preprocessor is responsible for macro replacement. Preprocessor is responsible for conditional compilation. So we need to talk about all these things little bit detailed way. In this 1-2 session, we need to talk about all these things in the little bit detailed things. Observe here. If you see this list again, you might have observing preprocessor is responsible for header file inclusion. Header file inclusion. There are two ways you can include the header file. One, we can include in angular brackets. That's what that till now we included. Another way we can include it in a double quote. Again, there are two ways we can include the header file. One is a angular brackets and another one is the double quote. We need to understand what is the difference between the angular brackets and double quote, and we need to understand what is the header file, what header file contains, what should I write in the header file, what I should not write in the header file. All these things we need to discuss it. So preprocessor is responsible for header file inclusion. There are two ways you can include the header file. One is angular brackets inclusion and another one is double quote inclusion. Again, there are two ways you can include the header file. One is the angular brackets inclusion and another one is the double quote inclusion. We need to understand little bit detail about these things also. Second job done by the preprocessor is a comment removal. As all of you know, comments are not a part of the program, right? Comments are not a part of the program. So preprocessor is responsible for removing the comments. Preprocessor is responsible for removing the comments. There are two types of comments. There are two types of comments. One is a single line comment and another one is a multi-line comment. Again, there are two types of comments. One is a single line comment, one is a multi-line comment. My question is, preprocessor removes the comments in a .c file, yes or no? My question is, preprocessor removes the comments in a .c file. Answer is yes or no. Answer is no. So what the preprocessor will do is, suppose this is a .c file you supplied it. Suppose this is a .c file you supplied it. And suppose it is creating the .i file. This is the .i file. What the preprocessor will do, in this .c file, if any comments are there, those comments are not going to be pasted into the .i file. It's not the meaning that preprocessor removes the comments in .c file. It's not the meaning that preprocessor will include the header file in a .c file. Again, preprocessor will not include the header files in a .c file. In a .c file, what is the header file name is there, that header file is included in a .i file. Again, in a .c, whatever the header file name is there, that is included in a .i file. All of you getting the point? Once again, preprocessor removes the comments which are present in the .c file. Yes or no? Preprocessor removes the comments which are present in the .c file. Yes or no? Answer is no. When the preprocessor is creating, the .i file from .c file, it will make sure that the comments should not be there. When the preprocessor is creating the .i file from the .c file, it will make sure that in that comments will not be there. Preprocessor will include the header file in a .c file. Yes or no? Preprocessor will include the header file in a .c file. Yes or no? Again, answer is no. In a .c file, which header file you mentioned, that header file is going to be opened, going to be copied into the .i file. Before getting the point. In a .c file, whatever the header file we included, stdio.h. So that stdio.h, suppose in this hash include stdio.h. So what the preprocessor will do? This stdio.h content, it will open it, it will copy it into this .i file. It will open it, it will copy into the .i file. So can I say preprocessor will include the header files which you mentioned in a .c, it will include in a .i. In a .c file stdio.h, can I say that content is copied into the .i? In a .c file, if you included string.h, can I say that content is copied into the .i? So like this, in a .c file, whatever the header files you mentioned, those header files is copied into the .i file. Will you agree the preprocessor is opening the source, this file .c file in the read mode and opening the destination file in the write mode? I can say one very simple point. Preprocessor is like a copy command, but little bit advanced copy command. This is again, preprocessor is like a copy command only. This little bit advanced copy command. Why? Because copy command, what it did, it simply copied the source file into the destination file. Will you agree? The copy command, what it did is, it will simply copy the source file into the destination file. It simply copied the source file into the destination. But preprocessor, what it will do, Apart from copying the source file into the destination file, in the source file, whatever the things are there, it will do some additional work. K2 getting the point. In .c file, stdio.h is there. That stdio.h content is copied into the .i file. In a .c file macro, in a .c file comments are there. Those will not copy into the .i file. stdio.h is not a function. K2, try to understand. stdio.h is one header file. File means collection of data which is present in the secondary memory. Okay. So will you agree preprocessor is acting as like a copy command only, but advanced copy command. It will include the header file, it will remove the comments, it will replace as the macro. We need to understand what is a macro, replacement of macro. What is a macro? We need to understand. There are two types of, one is a predefined macros, one is a user defined macros. All these things we need to discuss. There is a predefined macros and there is a user defined macros. And one more thing, user defined macros, again two categories, without arguments, with arguments. Again, user defined macros, again two categories. One is a without arguments and another one is a with arguments. And last and very important job done by the preprocessor, what is it? Last and final job done by the preprocessor, that is a conditional compilation. V4, I hope you are getting the point. So in a .c file, header file is there, that will include it. In a .c file, comments are there, it will not copy. Remaining things it will. So these are the things. So main jobs done by the preprocessor is these things: header file inclusion, comment removal, macro replacement, conditional compilation. Header file inclusion, comment removal, macro replacement, conditional compilation. These are the four works done by the preprocessor. If these 4 points are clear, type 4, so that we'll discuss it one by one. I need to ask you, if you want to communicate with a translator, will you agree there are some keywords? Again, if you want to communicate with a translator, will you agree there are some keywords? Do you know? Keywords are the words which are given to the Keywords are the words which are given, which are used to communicate with the translator units. Similarly, there are some words are there which are used to communicate with the preprocessor. Observe, preprocessor directives are the special words which are used to communicate with the preprocessor. Again, preprocessor directives are the special words which are used to communicate with the preprocessor. All the preprocessor directives starts with what? All the preprocessor directives starts with the hash. Also, hash include, hash define, hash if def, hash if not def, hash else, hash elif, hash endif, hash pragma, hash undef. Again, if you want to communicate with a translator preprocessor unit, there are some special keywords are there. These are called as a preprocessor directives. All the preprocessor directives will start with hash symbol. All the preprocessor directives starts with a hash symbol. Hash include, hash define, hash if def. So to communicate with the translator unit, how the keywords are there? Similarly, to communicate with the preprocessor unit, these keywords are there. Anyway, as I told you, I'll share this data into a LMS. Is this point is clear? If this is clear, let's go to the understanding the header file inclusion. If this is clear, let's understand the header file inclusion. First thing is, what header file contains? First question is, what header file contains? Answer is, header file contains declarations. First thing is, what header file contains? Answer is, header file contains a declaration. Which declarations? Answer is, function declarations, structure declarations, union declarations, enums, and type def. Then header file contains declarations. Which declarations means? Which declarations means? Function declarations, structure declarations, enums, type defs, hash define. What the standard says that when you are writing the big program, what is the standard says that all these declarations should be separated from the source code. Now, can you tell me, till now, whatever the functions we declared it, where we declared it? Till now, whatever the functions we declared it, where we declared above the main. A16, please wait. Above the main, we declared it. Structures above the main. Structures above the main. All these things declared as above the main. I need to ask you one question. I need to ask to everyone, void or int sum, int comma int I, int I is equals to 10, extern int I, struct 1. In this, which one are the declarations? First one, sum int comma int, is it a declaration or not? This one is a declaration. This one is a declaration. Yes. What about the int I? To whom I need to call as a declaration? Pure programming point of view, to whom I need to call as a declaration? To them, memory is not allocated, we need to call as a declaration. To them, memory is not allocated, we need to call as a declarations. Now tell me, int I is a declaration or a definition or initialization? Int I is a declaration or definition or initialization? Definition. It is not a declaration. Try to recollect the concept of storage classes. Int I is a definition. Memory is allocated. Int I is equals to 10. It is called int I is equals to 10. It is called initialization. But what about extern int I? What about extern int I? It is a declaration because there is no memory is going to be allocated. Because it is a declaration because there is no memory is going to be allocated. What about the structure? Struct 1, open and close bracket, semicolon, in that mentions numbering. Also declaration. Now can you tell me, when you are writing the header file, can you put this? Can we place this? Yes. Can we place this? No. This is also no. This, yes. This, yes. So in a header file, make sure that nothing will be there to whom the memory is not going to be allocated. To whom the memory is going to be allocated. When you declare a structure, is the memory is going to be allocated or not? When you declare a structure, a memory is going to be allocated or not? Answer is no. Only memory is allocated when you create a variable for the structure. Will you agree? The memory for a structure is allocated only when you create a variable for the structure. So make sure that only the declaration should be there. What the programming standards says that whenever you are implementing the big projects, what you need to do is all the declarations you need to separate from the source codes. That is a standard. All the declarations you need to separate from the definitions. Till now we written small programs, so not required of multiples. But if you're implementing the project, suppose if you're implementing the protocol where so many functions you need to declare, so many structures you need to declare, all those things standard says that all those things standard says that all those things you need to put it in a all those things we need to put it in a where header files. All those things we need to put it in a header file. Is that point is clear? Okay. Now, now let's understand the difference between the angular brackets inclusion and double quote inclusion. One thing is, when you include the header file in angular brackets, preprocessor will search only in the predefined path. Observe. Some important points I'll write it. I'll upload in the LMS also. If we include header file in angular brackets, preprocessor search that file in predefined path only. Again, if we include the header file in angular brackets, the preprocessor will search in the predefined path only. Path only means in the predefined path only it will search. It will not search anywhere. Entire system it will not search. Only in the predefined path it will search. /usr/include. This is a predefined path. Again, when you include the header file in angular brackets, preprocessor will search the file in this predefined path only. Predefined path only. Any doubt in this? If you include the header file, if suppose in a predefined path file is not there, in a predefined path if the file is not there, if in predefined path if the file is not there, can I say you will get, will you agree, you will get fatal error. Will you agree, you will get a fatal error. If we include the header file, if we include header file in double code, preprocessor will search first in PWD. If present, that file is copied into .i file. Else means if file is not present. If file is not present, then it will search in predefined path. Again, angular brackets, it will search only in the predefined path. In a double quote, it will search in the present working directory. If it is present, it will copy it into the .i file. If it is not present, it will search in the predefined path. If in both places not present, can you tell me if the file which we return, if the file is not present in both places, it will generate fatal error. It will generate a fatal error. Is it clear? It will generate a fatal error. Yeah, K2 wants to ask one question. Yeah, K2.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, if we change the include directory name, then we should use same name in the header file during the
Means I didn't get you.
like slash usr slash include is there, no sir?
Yes, yes. That is a predefined path.
If we change the directory name, include directory
We can't
name.
change the directory name because above the one path, you cannot do any operation.
Okay.
Above the local, you are the local user, right? You can't
Yes,
modify anything about
this. Okay, sir.
Okay. B4 wants to ask one question. Yeah, B4.
Sir, in preprocessor will search in first in PWD and then search in predefined path, sir.
Where if you include in an angle a double quote.
Yes, sir, in double quote. That means
yes,
the double quote, the predefined cannot means user defined can also be found at predefined path, sir.
User defined means I didn't get you.
It's the header file which we create.
Which you created header file. Suppose you written header.h.
Yes, sir.
That is present in the present working directory.
Sir,
So you need to include in the, you need to write in a double quote.
Okay, that no, sir. Is there any predefined header files with in double quoted, sir?
No.
Yes,
You
sir.
can include the header file in a double quote.
In
Suppose
predefined.
stdio.h is there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So till now we included in which way?
In predefined path means
In a angular brackets.
Yes, sir.
But you can include in a double quote also.
Oh, both means the same.
Yes, why? Because if you include the double quote, what it will do?
It will
First it will search in
PWD and then
if not there, it will go to the predefined.
Oh, yes, sir.
Understood the point?
Yes, sir.
So till now, whatever the header files we included, you can include in a double quote also. So what is a fatal error means? That is one type of error generated by the preprocessor.
Yes, sir.
S32 is asking one question, and just a minute. M7 is asking why to place in the present file. See, when you are implementing the header files, when you are implementing the big project, so you should not place this in a predefined path. So it should be in your own only. It should be in a present working directory only. Sir, what is if Create stdio.h file in a present. Okay, good question is asked by one of the student. Let me show you. One of the student is asking one question. Sir, if I include header file stdio.h like this. Suppose if stdio.h is present in a present working directory, can I say that working directory content is copied? T3. T3, getting the point? If I include the header file and if I create a header file stdio.h in the present working directory, so if you include like this, the present working directory file is added. Suppose in the present working directory the file is not there, then double code means first priority is present working directory. If not, then it will go there. K2, any doubt? Just if you don't have any doubt, just lower your hand. If anybody is having a doubt, please let me know. All these informations are loaded into the RAM finally. A16 is asking, sir, these. See, try to understand A16. Input for the preprocessor is a .c file. Output of the preprocessor is a .i file. Input of the preprocessor is a .c file. Output of the preprocessor is a .i file. When the preprocessor is doing, I don't know you remember or not, cc hyphen capital E, preprocessor command is a capital E. But ultimately the file is created in a hard disk, right? A16, even though all these operations are going on in the RAM itself, at last file is created in a hard disk. .i file is created. Huh? Now tell me, if I include stdio.h in a double code, first it will search in the present working directory. First it will search in the present working directory. First it will search in the present working directory. File is there. If the file is there, then it will include it. If file is not there, it will go to the predefined path. I hope all of you got this point. So what is a header file? Answer is, header file is one file as per the programming standards. All the declarations we need to place. If somebody asks, if somebody asks what is the header file, you need to say very simple. Header file is a file where all the declarations we need to put it. Declarations such as structure declarations, how to include stdio, math.h. One of the student is asking how to include stdio.h or math.h in the present working directory. You can create your own header file, stdio.h. Suppose if I write one header file here, observe. Suppose if I create a header file here, stdio. In this, whatever you want, you can write it. Now tell me, in my .c file, if I include double code stdio.h, this header file is included. If I include Angular stdio.h, predefined header file is included. Why 4? I hope you are getting the point. Any others having any doubt regarding this? Interview point of view questions is, what is a header file? Answer is, header file is a file where all the declarations are present. Header file is a file where all the declarations are present. Header file is a file where all the declarations are present. A16 is asking for user defined header file, how to define it and link with a library. See, A16 library linking is done by the linker, but header file is a just declarations done by the preprocessor. How to create a libraries and all other things we need to discuss once we started with the Linux system programming. Again, how to create a library is the preprocessor is a command. Yes, cc hyphen e. What is it? It's a command only, right? cc hyphen e. Will you agree it is a command only, right? Will you agree? It is like one command only. For project purpose, all the declaration definitions we need to write ourselves. Yes. When you are implementing the project, suppose you are implementing the big protocol. So all the declarations you need to write, definitions you need to write apart from the what? Predefined functions usage. Apart from the predefined things. Is it clear? Anybody is having any doubt, please let me know. So what is the next work done by the header preprocessor? What is the next done by the preprocessor? Next work done by the preprocessor, what is that? Comment removal. Will you agree? Next work done by the preprocessor is a comment removal. Next work done by the preprocessor is a comment removal. Comments are not a part of the logic, right? Comments are not a part of the program. So preprocessor will remove that comment. Will it remove in a .c file or will it remove in the .i file? Again, will it remove in the .c file or will it remove in the .i file? Will it in the .c file or will it in a .i file? Can I say in a .c file if the comments are there, it will not put in a .i file. In a .c file if any comments are there, it will not put that in a .i file. Again, in a .c file if any comments are there, it will not put in a .i file. Because the comments are not a part of the logic, right? Because the comments are not a part of the logic, right? In a .c file, if any comments are there, preprocessor will not put the .c file into the .i file. Any doubt in this? Just give me 1 minute of time. Next, what is the next job done by the preprocessor? What is the next job done by the preprocessor? Replacement of macro. We need to discuss what is the macro and all other things. We need to discuss what is a macro and all other things. So macro is nothing but, I'll write it very simple here. Macro is a small part of the program which is replaced with another part by the preprocessor. Macro is a small part of the program which is replaced with another part by the preprocessor. Something is replaced with something else. Macro is nothing but a small part of the program which is replaced with another part by the preprocessor unit. Again, something is replaced with something else. Macro is nothing but a small part of the program which is replaced with another part by the preprocessor unit. Like type def, there is no replacement happens. Try to understand. In the type def, there is no replacement happens. We need to understand the difference between the type def and all other things. In a type def, there is no replacement is going to be happened. If you want to define a macro, has define macro name, macro body. Again, if you want to define a macro, what is a predefined macros? We'll discuss it. For the time being, we are discussing how to define our own macro. We'll discuss what is a predefined macros and all of that. R1, getting the point? What is a predefined macro? We'll discuss it. It's clear? Macro name and macro body. Has defined macro name and macro body. Okay. Example, has defined pi as 3.14. Has defined pi as 3.14. Has defined pi as 3.14. So wherever the pi is there, preprocessor will replace with 3.14. Refer getting the point? Wherever the pi is there, preprocessor will replace 3.14. Has defined EOF is -1. Has defined EOF is -1. What the standard says that all the macros try to put it in a capital letter. Again, what the standard says that all the macros you put it in a capital letter. All the macros you need to put it in a capital letter. Is that point is clear? We'll see some examples so that it will be clear for you. We'll see some examples so that it will be clear for you. Just give me 1 minute. VI, what is the date? 13. If even we can write small letter also, no problem. Even we can write small letter also, no problem. Observe here. Hash include stdio.h. Yeah. Has defined PF as print. Now tell me, has defined PF as a printer means has defined PF as a printf means wherever the PF if I use, the preprocessor will put that as a printf. Wherever we use a PF, it will use as a printf. Wherever we use a PF, preprocessor will make it as a printf there. I'll show you this. Just a minute. We can use printf. We can use printf also. Observe void main PF hello world. PF hello world. Let's observe. In the place of PF, printf will be there. If you want, you can check the preprocessor stage. If you want, you can check the preprocessor unit. If you want, you can use cc-e. Do you know? cc-e. -e p1.c -op1.i. So this is like has defined this. We can use one more thing. Observe, has defined int as a char. Now tell me, when I write has defined int as a char, what happens? Wherever int is there, can I say it will replace with? It will replace with char. In the program, wherever if you use int, it will replace with char. In the program, wherever you use, in the place of int, it will replace with a char. Will you agree? So observe here, void main, if I write int I, printf %ld /n size of I. Now it will give 1 or it will give a 4. Can you tell me? Will it give 1 or will it give 4? 1. Why? Because preprocessor, in the place of int, it will put char. Why? Because preprocessor, in the place of int, it will put char. Will you agree? In the place of int, it will put char. Let me compile the code. I didn't included the header file. No problem. Warning. But observe 1. Will you agree? Warning, because I didn't included the header. Suppose if you don't want that. What you can do, you can undefine it. Suppose after this, if I want to undef int. After this, if I declare int j, printf %ld /n size of j. Because I undefined it, just give me 1 minute of time. Just give me 1 minute. I'll open the program. Now, at which line I defined it, at which line I undefined it? Can you tell me? At which line I defined it, at which line I undefined it? Will you agree? At line number 1 I defined it, at line number 1 I defined it, at line number 7 I undefined it. Line number 1 I defined it, line number 7 I undefined it. So after undefined in line number 9, int j in line number 9, int j means will it int is replaced with int j, will it replace with char? Will it replace with char? Answer is no, right? It will not replace with a char. It will not replace with a char. Why? Because you undefined that. So what is the size of, now tell me, what is the size in this case? What is the size of j in this case? But what is the size of I? What is the size of I? Will you agree? The size of I is 1 only. Size of I is 1, but size of j is, I is 1, j is 4 bytes. Any doubt in this? Please let me know. Any doubt in this? Sir, because we defined variable as int I. See here, we up to this, wherever int is there, preprocessor will replace with char. Up to there, wherever int is there, preprocessor replaces with char. After that, because you undefined it, so here preprocessor will not replace with char. You can, if you want, you can redefine back. A16, if you want, you can redefine back, no problem. In function itself, wherever you want, you can this one you can do it. These type of hash defined, undefined, and all other things, wherever you want, you can write. It's not the meaning that you need to write it in a only above the and below the things. B4 wants to ask one question. Yeah, B4. Yeah.
Sir, wherever we write undefined or define, it will be for the entire, means it is like
Up to, from where you defined up to undefined, it will be there. If you don't undefined, up to this entire source code, it is applicable.
sir, now this undefined, if I write a new function also, this undefined will be.
Yes. So preprocessor doesn't know this is a function, this is a keyword, this is a data type, this is the thing. Just simply it will do its job.
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
Yes,
It's
sir.
not the meaning that this, it's not the meaning that here only it is. It's clear? A16.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, my question is that in terms of memory allocation point of view, suppose we have defined int as a char, then memory allocation changes 4 byte to 1 byte. Again, due to
See,
define
memory allocation, who will decide? Yeah, memory allocation, who decides? Preprocessor or translator?
Compiler.
Compiler. In the compiler, which stage?
So preprocessor.
Preprocessor will not decide how much of memory. Translator will decide.
Yes, sir.
So, what the preprocessor will do here, it will make it as a char here, and it will send it to the .i file.
Yes, sir.
So when it goes to the translator, in this line number 6, int I is there or char I is there?
Sir, char I.
So translator decide, for this I need to allocate 1 byte. But what about this?
Sir, 4 bytes.
Got the point?
Means memory will change automatically. Means there is flexibility for this.
No, it's not called as flexibility. It is just, it is replacing. Suppose you written a program. Suppose you written a big project where first you decided to deal with 8 bytes. You implemented, you declared a variable respect to 8 bytes. Character. After that, you need to want to change from character to short integer. So what you need to do?
Means Character to short integer for, sir, for what? Again, please repeat the
Suppose
question, sir.
I implemented a big project, one
Yes, sir.
program,
Yes, sir.
big protocol I implemented, let's assume.
Yes, sir.
So there you declared so many characters because you want to process 1 byte
Yes,
of
sir.
data.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So many header files are there, plenty of header files are there, so many things are there, where everywhere you used char. Later you
Yes, sir.
realize that I need to go from 8 to 16.
So I will use this mechanism to
Yes.
change.
Yes,
data.
wherever the char is there, you need to make it as a shorthand. Otherwise, can you tell me how much time it will take? You need to open each and every source code. You need to see wherever I used char, there you need to replace with shorthand. That is a very lengthy process for human, for programmer.
Yes.
So there may be a chance that sometimes you may forget also. Some places you may forget. In that
Yes,
case,
sir.
your application will not run perfectly.
So can we do this for structure members also?
Structure memory, anything. See, preprocessor doesn't know this is a structure. Wherever something, some symbol found, it will replace with another symbol. That's what. Very simple.
Okay. Thank you.
Understood? Preprocessor doesn't know this is a int is a data type. Char is a data type. You just be informed wherever it is there, you replace with that. That's why. It's clear? Yeah. Anybody else? S26 wants to ask one question. Yeah. Entire program, entire file in this 13 underscore 2 dots. If you might have not undefined it, entire program. Again, I am saying preprocessor doesn't know this is a function. It's not the concept of function, data type, and all. It's a concept of very simple, replacing something with something. Where it is, that is not a matter. That is taken care by the translator. Wherever you want, you can define it. So I defined it line number 1, right? If I want, I can define it line number 7 also, line number 6 also. S26, if your doubt is clear, just lower your hand. Anybody else having any doubt, please let me know. Something is replaced with something else. So how to define a macro? Has define macro name and macro body. Has define macro name and macro body. One of the reasons for defining the macros for understanding purpose. I don't know, you observed or not. I'll open one header, otherwise I'll write it. One of the purpose of yesterday when we are talking about fseek function, we observed 3 macros: seek underscore set, seek underscore set. One standard is whenever you observe something in a capital letter, you need to assume that is a macro. Seek underscore cur. Again, what is the standard is whenever anything in a capital letter, that you need to assume that is a macro. Seek underscore and. I need to ask you one question here. Observe in the last session. Now tell me, what is the second argument of this here? Yes, third argument of fseek function. What is the third argument of fseek function? Third argument of fseek function is integer. Third argument is an integer. Why 4? Please wait. I'll discuss that also. Whatever your problem is there. Third argument is an integer. But are we passing the integer or are we passing this seek underscore set cur and are we passing the integers or seek underscore set seek underscore cur seek underscore and will you agree we are passing this macro? So let me compile the code and let me show you what it is. What is a seek underscore set? Tell me, sec underscore set means? Sec underscore set means 0. Sec underscore cur means sec underscore cur means 1. Sec underscore end means 2. Is that clear? But are we writing in the previous programs whatever I have shown you? Am I written 0, 1 to R? Am I use this macros? Just for readability purpose we use this macros. Just for readability purpose we use this macros. So sometimes we need to define a macro for understanding purpose. Is that point is clear? Sometimes we need to define a macro for understanding purpose. End of file, EOF. EOF, end of file. Otherwise you can write -1 also. Otherwise you can write -1 also. In the place of sec underscore set we can write 0. In the place of sec underscore set we can write 0. In the place of sec underscore cur we can write 1. Is this point is clear? Is this point is clear? So this is about the one thing about the map. You can define a map. So what I will do is, I will share this information to you tomorrow before coming to the class. Try to read it. All this information I will share. Is it clear? So tomorrow also you have the class at 2 o'clock. It's clear? Only 1 hour session will. All this information I will share in the after the class immediately. So tomorrow before coming to the class, just go through that. Tomorrow we need to talk about the difference between the macros with arguments, without arguments, and type and function type macros like this. We need to discuss. It's clear. Okay then. Thank you very much for attending. I'm going to end. Tomorrow class is at